And now it's time for my thoughts on the Season 2 trailer for Peacemaker. So once again, here we are at Comic Book News, who, did all the heavy lifting. So there you go. There's an image of Peacemaker, of course. Well, you need to read the article. You get the idea if you've probably seen it by now. And, there's some okay scenes in it and whatnot. And there's also cameos from characters from the Superman movie. Most notably, Hawkgirl, Green Lantern, the Guy Gardner version, and Maxwell Lord, played by James Gunn's brother. So, and it's this silly interview thing they do where Peacemaker's insulted and whatnot. And then a couple other things. Looks like they have a battle in the secret extra-dimensional room that his father had in his house. And looks like that might be a very serious plot point and a means by which they address the differences between the DCEU and the DCU. And that's the interesting thing about it. It ends with a second Peacemaker, because it shows Peacemaker opening a door. It looks like it can't possibly be involved with the other scenes where there was some sort of fight going on in it and they're being chased or something like that. Here he's by himself, but he opens this door and he steps into this house, and there's all these trophies on the wall, and it's like he's in a different world. And it looks like it's another version of his own life. And then suddenly another Peacemaker shows up, pointing a gun at his head, asking who he is. And so the thought process is being about what the possible plot could involve here if they do this, to where they're explaining that this is another reality, and just acknowledging that rather than just go along like he was always there and the other guys just disappeared or whatever. It is interesting that they would bother to address it, but it's also it fits in because he's got that room there and all that sort of thing, so it could work, I suppose. But the connections between the two, and I guess this guy had a similar. It looks like it's showing he has a more impressive background and whatnot. So I'm not entirely certain. It because I thought, well, maybe the opening of the show or the series is that they're still in the old world and dealing with the ramifications of what happened in the previous season, and then he discovers this place, because it does present this thing about, hey, we saved the world, but they don't get any respect for it or anything like that, and they're all kind of down in the dumps. And yet here's a chance to escape into another world and start over or whatever. And it might have been it might be something like that. I don't know if it's just some silly bit and they don't even really address it overall. That's going to be a bit of a letdown, but it's an interesting subject matter to take on in a way of explaining it. And then for the rest of this franchise, provided it survives long enough to do this, you Peacemaker will be one of the few who knows this is an alternate reality. Well, alternate for him, really. I mean, he's just, so the theory would go that he gets in a fight with this other Peacemaker and kills him and then just takes his place. So through it, there's two different images of the outfit, and it looks like, and other images, he's wearing the outfit that the other Peacemaker was wearing. And so it's basically the DCEU Peacemaker replaces the DCU Peacemaker, whom you'll never see. So you have to look at his wall for his trophies and achievements and just think, well, that's what he did. So early on, there were rumors about whether they would acknowledge this or not, especially since it was directly connected to the DCEU. And, of course, the Justice League showed up at the end of Season 1, albeit two members in Silhouette, and Batman wasn't there at all. But nevertheless, that was established, that there they were. And yet all of these people are gone, with the exception of Jason Momoa coming back as Lobo. So, the Justice League has been completely erased and replaced. So you already got Superman. It'll be a while, but we'll get versions of the others down the road, provided, again, that this all survives. And you just sort of move on and just, it's fine. They do some silly bit of dialogue. I don't know, you look a little different or something, that kind of thing. And that's how it plays out. But it is interesting. I'm just like, at what point is he meeting with Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, and Max Lord? Does he take the guy's place and then gets this opportunity to go be interviewed by them to possibly be a member of their team, and thinks he has a big chance with it? And then the reality is they still think he's an idiot, and that kind of thing. Perhaps that's how it plays out. Don't know. But it's a very, big. A lot of the complaints about the Superman teasers and trailers is they just weren't that good. There was a couple of scenes that were good and all that. We finally got one where he, you get to hear from him and everything, and it's a little better. But here for Peacemaker, it gets this intriguing element that can be more of a draw than just anticipation of it being as good as the first season and that sort of thing. But yes, there had been rumors about that they would address it. And one was suggesting that Batmite would show up and that it was all Batmite all along. It changed everything. The Flash movie was supposed to be the vehicle by which to do this, because they were going to reset DCEU anyway, but it would still largely be DCEU, but they were going to, swap out Michael Keaton for Ben Affleck, and then Batgirl would be the main Bat person of the DCEU, and then Supergirl would replace Superman, so on and so forth. And it's like, that wasn't going to go over very well. But by the time they got to their third and final iteration of the Flash, they'd run out of time and everything and money, and it really bears no effect on it. Not the least of which your star was all so scandal-ridden and everything. You could have had a thing where the Flash shows up and does cameos in some of these things and give a more of explanation that, his time travel shenanigans did some damage to the universe and all that. But not in the cards. They broke away, and the only thing that survives, by a staggering coincidence, is James Gunn's own series. So, but anyway, I had a lot of fun with season 1, and hopefully this one will be on par with that. Possibly better. But he's got that eagle in it, and boy, that steals some scenes. So, more confident in this series than I am the Lanterns one, which is a shame. But yeah, take a look at that.